Hello and welcome. I'm Levon Roberson, the book editor and reporter for What's the 411. So, what is the 411? Well, we'll be talking about what happens when you go all the way back to the beginning, like to the Garden of Eden, and you eat from the tree of life. Well, God gets very, very angry, and that's just the beginning. That's the setup for the author who's joining me today about her new book, The Last King. Welcome, Yamina Collins, the author of The Last King.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us, Yamina.
Thank you.
So what is the 411?
Well, The Last King is basically a fantasy romance novel, and it actually takes place in modern-day New York, 2014, and yes, you're right, it does go back to the beginning, but it's basically about these group of people called Edenites. And Edenites are immortal beings whose ancestors basically walked into the Garden of Eden, ate from the tree of life, and lived forever. And basically, God considered their eating of the tree to be theft. It was basically an immortality that was stolen. So basically, he says to them, return your immortality. And they say no, because they have all this power. And so what God ends up doing in this book is he sets up this game. And this is where the modern part of the story comes in. He sets up a game where he says to each Edenite, okay, I'm not going to kill you, I'm not going to hurt you in any way, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send each of you something called a glitch. And a glitch is a completely normal human being whose job it is to retrieve the immortality from the Edenite and kill them off. And basically, for an Edenite to win this sort of chess game against God, all they have to do is kill off this glitch that God sends to them. Very simple setup. Problem is, God is very smart. And a glitch is not only an Edenite's greatest enemy, but also their greatest love. So the story starts off with Gilead Knightley, who is my male antagonist slash protagonist. He finally meets his glitch in this young woman named Emmy Hughes, who lives in upstate New York. And that's the beginning of the story.
You know what I really loved about this and found so fascinating at the same time is that you're talking about something that is so extraordinary, but for goodness sakes is taking place in Lake George.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that juxtaposition.
Lake George, okay, yeah. So Lake George, there's not a lot of black people living in Lake George. Well, first of all, I chose Lake George because I visited there and I just loved it. But I intentionally wanted to write a story that didn't have African Americans in what you'd call stereotypical or typical surroundings or settings. I also didn't want to tell a typical story. So I was very careful in almost everything I chose about the book to make it sort of out of the ordinary, if you will. But also because they're Edenites, they, as the story gets further, you get to kind of see where they live and their home. They're not going to live in just some small house in Manhattan. They need a lot of room. So they're able to build a sort of big home in Lake George. So I wanted a place with a lot of space.
Well, actually, that's a great segue into something else that I'm finding, that it's a space and it's a place where it's set in something that seems so ordinary. Mm-hmm. But then we find out increasingly about the Edenites, mm-hmm. and we find out where they reside. For example, the amazing place that Emmy, right. Should we call him the heroine?
Yes, she's the heroine. She is the heroine of the story,
yeah.
Yes.
Where she and her friends end up in a place that is truly amazing. Yes. And something happens there. Very extraordinary things happen without
right.
giving away too much.
Right.
Tell me why that happened, why you set it in that kind of space.
You mean why the house looks the way it does? Or, well, because I wanted, I guess it is sort of giving a little bit away. I mean, when you first see their house, the outside is not only very ordinary, but very run down.
Exactly.
And that's intentional because they don't like a lot of attention. And then when Emmy and her friends go inside of the house, they find that the inside of the house and the outside of the house are two completely different worlds. And the Edenites are very smart people. They've done that intentionally. And also because the book is fantasy romance, and up until the point of the book that you're talking about, much of the book has been very ordinary. She lives an ordinary life, and so that part of the story suddenly segues into the fantasy part of the book.
Yeah, that is exactly, there's a lot going on in this book, a lot of different levels.
Yes.
And one of the entry points for me was every page I met somebody new. I met a new character, and the names were amazing. I was thinking, for example, Gilead.
Gilead, yes.
That's a name, as well as a place in the Bible. Is there any reason that you might have Gilead, your protagonist, antagonist name,
Have that name, to be honest.
biblical?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're dealing with, there is a biblical theme in it, even though it's not very big in the forefront. So there's these little things that I add to it. Plus, I just like the name. And I purposely made his name Knightly because there's a little bit of symbolism. You know, he starts off as the antagonist. He does become the protagonist. And so I wanted this name that kind of exemplifies his sort of being a knight, sort of a black knight in shining armor. I think it takes a minute to get there, but he gets there.
Yes. And naming has a lot to do with the world that you build.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there is Gilead Knightly
Yeah.
and Emmy.
Yes.
Emmy Hughes. So I found some things we could play a little bit around with Emmy as
Okay.
well, but I guess for now we'll leave it to the reader to do that as we find out more about her in the book.
Okay.
But what about Rion? The
Rion,
panther.
the panther. I just like the name Rion. I didn't get it from any place. That's Gilead has some people have dogs. Gilead has panthers. He can't help it. I just like the name Rion.
But I did look it up.
Oh, really?
And in Africa, I forgot which part of Africa. I think it's of South African origin.
Really?
It means descendant of the king.
That is so funny. See, I did not know that. I kid you not. I don't know where I got that name from.
Well, that means that you are creating the most amazing world that's working, as we can see, on many levels.
Right.
And what about, for example, I thought this was really fascinating, that when they go to the costume party, and something huge happens,
Yes.
really that's one of the turning points
That
of
is
the
one-
book
yes.
for Emmy and the rest of the characters.
Yeah.
But she dresses as
A character from why am I forgetting the name?
from Tolkien.
Tolkien's, yes.
Yeah.
Why am I
The
drawing?
Fellowship of the Ring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
drew a blank.
No.
But she's a fan of those books. She's a fan of Lord of the Rings, and that's just kind of one of her homages to that book.
Now, do you pronounce it Legolas? Legolas?
I ask my friends. I always hear like my nieces and nephews say Legolas.
Legolas.
But I could be wrong. That's
Legolas
what my
sounds
nieces and
fine
nephews
to
tell me. So
And in the movie, Orlando Bloom
played
him
Legolas.
in
Yeah.
Fellowship of the Ring.
So she dresses up as the female version.
Yes,
of
she
Legolas.
does.
Yes,
she does. But when this turning point, really excruciatingly difficult,
Yeah.
without giving anything away, situation happens with
Yes.
Emmy dressed as Legolas
Yeah.
from Fellowship of the Rings, okay?
Right.
She doesn't call on Tolkien or European traditions for strength and power. She starts thinking of and reciting, "Ain't I a Woman?"
Yes, from Sojourner Truth.
So
I love
I
that
thought
one.
that was fabulous.
Thank
It was very interesting to me that she was dressed as something that's so European and a male,
Right.
but when she's confronted with this really difficult, situation,
Yeah.
she doesn't call on that force and that power. Instead, she calls on something that is so wonderfully liberating for women.
Right.
And Ain't I a Woman? It's
Yeah.
something that, of course, Sojourner Truth
Right.
spoke at the convention in,
Right.
I think, 1841, and that Bell Hooks wrote the title of her book in 1981. So, like a 140-year span, but Ain't I a Woman? And she says this is what you wrote in the book. Just read a little bit of it.
Do you want me to read it?
Just a little
okay.
bit.
Okay.
Because this is so powerful, I felt.
Okay. As Emmy hears Anders fumbling stupidly but aggressively with his pants, she thinks of two things, of wanting to die and of a famous speech. Why a speech in a moment of crisis like this? Ain't I a woman? Her imagination will not relent. Right there, in her mind, Sojourner Truth is standing and weeping over her. I have borne children and seen most of them sold into slavery, and when I cried out with a mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Am I a woman, Emmy thinks, or a thing to this man? Am I a thing? My feelings, my sense of pride, even my worth are meaningless to him.
Thank you so much. And it's a very beautifully written passage, and it's very powerful. And it helps explain why The Last King, so far there are 4 episodes, The Last King, 5 4.
It's 4 so far. The
That's
5th one's
right.
coming out in a couple
So
weeks.
is in the top.
It has been in and
Amazon.
out of the Amazon top 100. That's why we're starting to market it, because I think it's a really great book. It's hard to market an episodic book because you don't get the full story yet, and I'm a new author, so this is just the beginning.
Yes,
Just
you're
the
a new
beginning.
author, but getting some really terrific mileage with readers, being in the top ebooks for Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. It's an ebook only, so it's an Amazon. It has been in Amazon's top 100 under science fiction, under fantasy, under African American literature, under religion,
Wow.
Christian women's literature, and women's literature as well. So, but there's a lot of competition out there. So.
Yeah, there is. But apparently, Yamina, today, your blog is getting quite a bit of traffic, so you're doing okay when it comes to the competition. What are the numbers looking like now?
Yamina Today is my blog, and right now I get about 900 to 1,000 visitors a day. I had someone design it; they did a great job. So I don't know. I put things up there that I enjoy. Right now, I'm actually doing this imaginary series where I put a soundtrack of songs that I think would fit Gilead and Emmy's love story, and so there's a lot of that on the blog. And I write posts. One post I had written was why I made my female heroine in The Last King really dark and really feminine, and that was really important to me as a writer to create a woman like her in a book.
And I have to say, I think the readers will really, they'll gravitate toward that reality, the authenticity of Emmy and her struggle. For me, reading the passage where Emmy is in the bar at the very beginning, I think it's the High Life, the nightclub.
Oh, it's not a nightclub. It's a what is it when you go?
Like
it's
a
a restaurant and they do
Karaoke.
That's what
right,
it's karaoke
karaoke bar.
yeah.
And the guy, I think his name is Martin.
Markus is Gilead's brother.
No, the one she had.
Oh, James. Her ex-boyfriend.
James
Mathis.
Mathis.
Is her
okay.
ex-boyfriend, yeah.
And she says that she thinks, he was attracted to her because she's clearly striking.
Right.
But he also struggled with it.
Yes, because
That was so authentic. I don't know any brown-skinned girl who would not understand that immediately, and just the wrenching anguish of that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because colorism is something that
huge.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, there's 2 things I wanted to do with the book. I wanted to, first of all, create an African American love story between a black male and a black female that was eventually very healthy and very loving. But I also wanted to create a female heroine who is not typically considered lovely in books. She's not typically pursued. She's a gorgeous woman. She's 6 feet tall, lots of big hair, but she's very, very dark. And as a matter of fact, she looks nothing like her parents. At first they think, where'd she come from? But I wanted to honestly sort of explore the idea of how oftentimes black females we either have lives of pain or lives of pathology in literature and film, but we're not really pursued. We're not like the ones that the guys go after. And so I wanted to create that heroine who has that story. And where a lot of people do reject her, even though she's very beautiful. And then Gilead comes in, and of course, she's very much Gilead's type. He's 6'7", and for starters, so their height is, never mind, that's another subject. But and I also wanted to, that's another subject too, but I wanted to create Gilead in a very untypical fashion compared to most African American males that I see in literature too, where they're abusive or and I didn't want that.
Or they're just too perfect. They
I don't see a lot of too perfect in black
I remember
males in
growing up,
books,
they
and-
couldn't. I remember looking at films when black men. They were the ones who could never have sex on camera. It was always the white guys who got to have like more whole, complete lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like obviously smutty in this book at all. But in
No,
terms of the
no.
romance that eventually is going to be laid out, yeah, I wanted them to both have very deep inner lives, and eventually you're going to see Gilead, his story really come to fold. And I wanted to have a black male whose inner life is very real and very rich. And so he starts off as the bad character because he's at war with God, not because he's in a gang or nothing, but because he's at war with God. So he starts off as the bad guy in that sense, and because he has all of this power, and there's a lot he could do with his power, good and bad, and we see him do some things that are a little bit conflicting. But he's a conflicting character.
He is, but that makes him human to me. It makes him more human, much more multidimensional, and it gets to what you were saying earlier about how it's rare for us to see that kind of black man portrayed in film and in
Right.
literature. He's complex because most human beings are complex,
yeah.
but we usually don't get to see that. So
Right.
that's something that
That's hugely important for me. that
readers
they're-
will find that.
Yes, that they're both very complex, but he in particular is very complex. And he comes from a line of kings. He has quite a history. Yeah, but we'll get into him a little bit more later in the book.
One of the things that Emmy sees, and I think twice when she's at the palace that looks really grubby and whatever
outside, yeah.
on the outside, is a painting of someone.
Hannibal, yeah.
And it turns out the painter is not who we would ever imagine. So that's another. It's Gilead.
It's Gilead. He does. Yeah, he's been okay.
So
he's
we
been-
get to see him.
Yeah, we see these sides of him that make you kind of go, oh, But then
Yeah.
he's got this other side where he is a serious dude.
Yes.
You do not mess with Gilead.
Yeah,
in any
somebody
way.
who can get a panther.
As a pet.
Yeah.
By the way, he's
Okay.
actually got 3 panthers, but
That's
you just,
right, he
you
does.
just meet one. You just meet Rayon.
Rion,
You meet
yeah.
his baby.
And also, he must look real hot. I have to say this in his riding outfit when he plays his polo
his
outfit.
polo outfit.
So that's another thing. How many black men have we seen, playing polo? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's a great character. I think he's a wonder. He's my favorite character. I like him more than Emmy because he's the one that ends up having more of the conflict. We find out later on in The Last King. He's the
And speaking of Emmy, what was it about her having a difficulty, a physical?
difficulty.
Yeah.
I did that because I wanted her to be a vulnerable character. It was very important for me to write a black female who was vulnerable, and so I made her physically vulnerable. The book starts off where she's been in a car accident. Her mother was killed in the car accident, and it ended up damaging her back, and she has trouble walking. And so I wanted to give her a physical difficulty for a couple of reasons. One, to make her more sympathetic. It also makes her more sympathetic to Gilead because Gilead's job, as I stated in the beginning, is to kill her. That is, so there's something physical about her that instead makes him feel for her. And then we find out in episode 4, and I won't go beyond episode 4, that Gilead proposes something to her. He's a doctor. He and his brother Markus are doctors. And he proposes to her that he can fix her back. And I'm not going to say what happens after that, but it gives her physical difficulty gives them something to work with, Gilead and Emmy, between each other.
And it's funny, I never thought a black man, a black woman, and a mouse between them would actually mean so much. We won't say anything more about that, okay?
And a mouse,
but it
right?
does get into something about what you have done, like we've talked about the different spaces, the different places, the naming. You're building and creating a world.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, a lot of different worlds because you have a lot of genres.
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about what are the different genres? Probably will keep mounting, but for now.
Yeah, there's about 6 genres. I do worry that people are going to get a little schizophrenic. So it covers fantasy, it covers science fiction, it covers romance, it covers religion, it covers history, and it covers what I call African American literature.
And there's quoting of scripture in there.
Well, that's why I said
Yeah,
religion,
yeah,
Christian. Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, it covers a big genre. And I get worried as a writer later on because we're going to end up going back into Gilead's history. And I'm just like, oh my God, help me, because I got a lot of history studying to do.
But
on
you
this
know,
guy.
as I was reading it, and I think this is something that has a lot to do with the power of the book. It's not just that, there's something for everyone. That is not what it is about for me. It's more that it's multidimensional, like we've been talking about the characters, and not just your lead characters either. That is what is so rich about this, is the world that you're building.
Right.
All of the characters, including the animals, have this amazing, full, rich, textured, multidimensional life. That's a lot of work. So how do you do it?
I feel like I'm kind of drowning actually right now. Let me ask you a question. Did you feel it was too many characters?
I did not.
Okay.
Because I love, like, as you
Okay.
can see, I looked up every character.
Oh, wow. No, one person had said, well, there's so many characters, and I said, I know, but eventually the introduction of all these characters is going to die out, and there's a reason why there's so many characters. They come into play here. They come into Gilead's life. Gilead comes into their life. But yeah, there's an extraordinary amount of characters. There's Gilead's father, Gilead's brother. We find out things about them, and he's got actually quite a few siblings. And there's Emmy's best friend, and there's her mother, her father, her brother. There are.
Yeah. Speaking of their father.
Yes. Whose father? Emmy's? Nabil. Oh, that's Gilead and Markus's father in The Last King. Yes.
Exactly.
Who's Indian.
Yes, and I looked up his name too.
Yes.
And it means in Arabic, I think, it means noble. So you have a lot of things.
That
As I said, they're
I
playing on so many different levels.
Yes.
And so how do you keep track of it?
I
Do you have a storyboard?
I have a notebook in which I forget things all the time, so I write down little notes about each of them because there are a lot of characters. And in book 2, we actually do meet new characters, but yeah, there's a lot of characters. Gilead has a family of 19 people. And I don't think you know that yet in episode 4, but you start to get hints of it. But yeah, there's a lot of people.
Wow.
In this book.
Wow.
But the center is Gilead and Emmy, is the love story between Gilead and Emmy in The Last King. But yes, they have.
So is that sort of multiplicity of characters and also of the levels and dimension of the characters' lives and the world they live in, is that somehow connected to, I don't know, I'm stretching here probably, to the fact that you decided to do it in an episodic way, that it's serialization? And I love something that I saw you talking about this is not serialization, and doing things like in this way is not something new.
Oh, not at all. Actually, hats off to Charles Dickens. I believe he was the first one with the Pickwick Papers to do serialization. Other authors like Alexander Dumas did it. But what they did in the 18th century, they would serialize their novels in magazines or newspapers, and sometimes they would take as many as 32 months for a whole book to come out. So I thought, well, this has been done before. It's not done so much in modern times because we don't have newspapers, but what we have now is the internet. So I thought, well, let me take something very old and sort of modernize it and make it episodic, but it's definitely not new at all. Not at all.
So what's been the response to this, the episodic?
I've had some great
volumes.
I've had some actually wonderful responses. Part of me feels bad because I can't answer everyone's question, because they're like, well, I've had people say, well, I love it, but what's going on? Or I love it, but this didn't turn out the way that I thought. And that makes me feel good, because I want people to read a story in which they can't open the book and go, oh, I know how this is going to end. I want people to go, well, wait a minute, I'm not used to actually reading this. So I've had some great responses. I've had a couple of not so great responses, but I take all of them in stride, and I appreciate all of the responses. But yeah, I'm just, people have, they've been great responses.
So about those responses, and we had mentioned earlier that it's not the usual overall in literature to see a black male protagonist / antagonist who's so multi-dimensional and human, in other words. Although he's immortal.
He is immortal, yeah. He's
so
not,
he's a different kind of guy.
Kind of human.
What do you think is happening for the future? If you were to predict it, what do you think might be happening with African American fiction overall? I mean, we have the legacies, of course, like Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. By the way, I see the Panther, and in something that she wrote in The Secret of My Joy.
Okay, I didn't read that one. I did not know.
I think she starts it. It's about sexual abuse, and it's about self-image of a woman, and it's a panther. So I thought, oh, that's amazing. Well, there's a lot of channeling going on, I think, a lot of channeling. So are you concerned about the direction of African American?
I actually am concerned about the future of African American fiction. My biggest concern is balance, and that I notice with a lot of African American literature and films, there tends to be a lot of what I call abuse and pathology. Whether it's in films in which you get stuff like The Color Purple or in Precious, in which everyone's abusing each other, or even in books in which there's a lot of ghetto literature. I suppose I wouldn't mind it as much if there was balance, but there is no balance. There is almost it's all just you know, black guys, you know, molesting their children, or black women being abused, or, you know, gold digging this, baby mama that. And I think our lives are so much richer than that. They're so much bigger than that. And I want there to be black literature in which we can go out of the box and just create even heroes and heroines that our children can grow up and be like, I want to be that. You know, I want our children to be able to go and be like, I want to be. I think white children get to go and they get to pretend that they're Thor or that they're the Princess Bride. They get to just, their imaginations get to be so rich. And our children's imaginations tend to be stuck with, well, I was born in the ghetto, or, you know, my mother abused me, and I just think, no, we're bigger than that. We're more than that. And even if that does happen a lot, it happens in every culture. And I think sometimes what we need to write are images in which allows people to dream even beyond their personal situation. So while Gilead is certainly not a perfect character, I am going to give a spoiler alert here, I don't mind, but he does, for example, when Emmy and her friend are almost attacked and raped, he comes in and saves them. She doesn't know it's him, but I want it to be like, no, you know what? I'm going to make this guy the hero. Even though he still has some issues, I'm going to come in and make him be the hero I want him to be. I want him to come and rescue this black woman. I don't want her to, to see her just, on the ground and being attacked by this guy. And so that was intentional. And if I can, with my too small sense, encourage people to write just different stories, I'll be happy.
Also, there needs to be more so that it's not so easy to say there isn't anymore. There's only this over here.
And I do want to clarify, I didn't mean that there's no such literature, and I certainly am a fan of authors like Toni Morrison. We do have a rich legacy as African Americans, but it's at this point, it feels that it's almost drowning in the avalanche of pathology books and ghetto books, and that's what I mean. So I certainly do not mean to deride, part of the rich history that we do have.
And so what do you read? Do you read fantasy romance yourself?
You know what? Here's the funny thing. I'm actually not a big fantasy romance reader. I actually, first of all, I love the classics. I love everything from Shakespeare to Henry James to Toni Morrison.
And when you go on Yamina Today, your blog, you see all that. It's so creative.
And I love Jessie Redmond Fawcett. I actually named my character Emmy after one of the characters in her book. So I admit I'm kind of stuck on old school. But in terms of fantasy, I did read Twilight. I enjoyed it. And it's funny because there's one thing that I did take from Twilight after I read it. I thought to myself, she gets offered immortality in Twilight, and not immortality, and she accepts it. And I thought, if someone asked me to be immortal forever, would I accept it? And I said no. So I purposely made sure to put that in there with Emmy. She's actually a character who has no interest in being immortal whatsoever. So,
thank you for that. So what's next? What's next?
Well, The Last King is actually a trilogy. So I'm going to be working on The Last King for the next several years because book one is not going to be finished until August of next year. It's episodic. It's going to be coming out between now and August in its full completion. And book one will be completed in August of 2015. But then I have 2 more books, and that's going to take a couple of years for each of those books. So I'd say for the next 5 or 6 years, it's going to be The Last King. And then I do have 2 more ideas for books that I'm going to be doing. But I can't give. I don't want to share my ideas.
Well, one of the many things. This is another one. Is that you also look at your characters like Emmy, who could play her if there were a film, a movie about her, and tell me a little bit about that, because I love the fact that you've created this amazingly rich, multi-dimensional world in the book.
Right.
And then online and via social media, you're doing the same thing. It's like she could look like.
Right.
Lupita Nyong'o, or Markus could be Chris
Hemsworth,
who played in Thor.
He's Thor, yeah. Gilead's brother. That would be Gilead's brother.
So and the songs you also have on your blog.
Emmy,
you're just like exactly
for them.
It's
already.
like not just the episodes, but also you're building another world on social online and social media.
Yeah.
So one of the songs for Gilead and Emmy, A Long and Winding Road, I think.
The Beatles. Yeah, that's one of the sadder ones. That kind of comes into play in the later episodes. But yeah, the recent one was the Beatles. I've chosen some Earth, Wind, and Fire songs. Beach Boys songs, everything. I just think that they would have a great they'd have a great soundtrack to their love story.
Exactly. So I just put something together here. So.
Pictures of who I said.
Yes, you have on your blog.
Yes,
Lupita.
I said Lupita would be a perfect Emmy. She's
Lupita
not as
would
tall,
be
but
great.
films can cheat that, and she'd need hair. They'd have to put a big afro on her. Or
So
something
like
that.
this, you said.
So it would be like Lupita's face, but like Esmeralda's. How do you pronounce her? Esmeralda's hair would be Emmy. That would definitely be Emmy. Then for Gilead, I had said that a younger Denzel Washington,
would
30
work.
years ago, would be I don't know, can you see that?
Yeah.
30 years ago would be a perfect.
Yes, from St. Elsewhere.
From perfect
and
Gilead.
how perfect, he's a doctor.
And that's right.
my. Oh, this
I didn't
could
know
work.
that. He's a doctor. They're not really doctors, by the way, but that's a whole other story. Well, no, I guess they are. They really are doctors, but never mind. He and his brother. And then I said for Marcus Gilead has a brother, Markus, and I had said that
Oh, yes, he's quite striking.
Chris Hemsworth would be
Oh, yeah.
his brother.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
have a feeling people probably, when they first read it, they assume the romance is going to be between him and her, because he's kind of
And
prominent in the
Lupita.
beginning. Yeah, and I think people are kind
Yeah.
of used to these interracial romances, but I'm like,
Yeah.
no, he's just Gilead's brother. Gilead kind of sneaks into the back door.
And I kind of like the fact that the white guy gets to be the not the sidekick,
Yeah.
but the second
He's the
guy.
yeah.
He's not the first
He's-
choice,
nah,
baby. I really
exactly.
like that.
And I did that on purpose because in the beginning, I do think people are going to go, it's Marcus.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's not Marcus. You think it's Marcus because that's what you're used to seeing. But and Gilead's a little bit silent kind of in the beginning, I think, and then he kind of starts to make his way in.
So, you live in New York. You've lived here for a while.
I've lived here
Okay.
for 24 years. I'm from California.
Yeah.
But now I'm a New Yorker officially. So.
And you went to NYU, New York University.
I did. I graduated from NYU.
Did this have anything? Your writing you hone your?
No,
tools then?
I honed my writing after college. Actually, I was a film major in college. If I could go back and do it all over again, I'd become a English major. But no, I think just reading, wanting to write great books, is what really has honed. I think that's the best way to hone your craft. You just keep writing, you keep reading a lot of other great authors, and then you just get to work. That's my philosophy.
And you have a lot of work.
I have a lot of work.
Yes, and we can hardly wait. Next episode. So the number 4 just hit.
Yeah, number 4 came out in late July. Number 5 should be out in mid-September. It's episode 5 of The Last King. You can get it on Amazon, ebook only. It'll be in print book when the book is completely finished as an ebook. Then it'll be in print next year.
So quite a few book parties, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's really been a wonderful, wonderful pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me.
So we did get What's the 411 on The
you.
Last King.
Yes.
And thanks so much again, Yamina Collins.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thanks a lot for joining us. Signing out now. And remember, What's the 411 has the 411 on everything from sports, entertainment, lifestyles, and books. So take good care, and we'll see you next time.
We got the 411. Who got the 411? We got the 411.